The studio lights glowed warmly over the colorful stage of the Kelly Clarkson show. The audience buzzed with excitement as the band finished their intro. When Keith Urban walked out, dressed casually in a black tee and jeans, the applause was thunderous. Across from him, Kelly Clarkson beamed her signature welcoming smile. "Keith Urban in the house!" Kelly laughed, hugging him. "It's always trouble when you're here." Keith grinned. "Good trouble, I hope." The crowd laughed. Everything felt natural, friendly. Two superstars sharing light banter. They talked about Keith's latest tour, his new single climbing the charts, and how he balances family life with performing worldwide. Kelly teased him about being the calmest rock star ever, and Keith responded with a playful eye roll. But then Kelly's tone shifted. "So, there's been a lot of talk online lately," she said carefully, glancing at her cue cards. "Fans are curious about the rumors surrounding your canceled shows last month." The audience murmured softly. Keith's smile faded just slightly. "Yeah, sometimes life throws curveballs." Kelly pressed gently. "Some insiders are saying it wasn't scheduling conflicts, that there was tension behind the scenes. Care to clear that up?" Keith adjusted in his seat. "I think people read too much into things." Kelly nodded, but her next question carried weight. "Is it true there was a disagreement with your management team? Some reports claim you walked out of rehearsals." The air changed. Keith's jaw tightened. "I don't usually comment on gossip." Kelly leaned forward. "Of course. But your fans worry. They deserve honesty." The crowd fell silent. Keith forced a small smile. "I always give my fans honesty through my music." Kelly's expression softened, but the tension lingered. "We're just trying to understand what happened." Keith exhaled slowly. "Sometimes what happens backstage is meant to stay backstage." The audience clapped awkwardly, unsure whether to laugh or stay quiet. Kelly tried to lighten the mood. Okay. We won't interrogate you. Yet." The band played a quick riff to ease the atmosphere. Keith chuckled, but his eyes seemed distant. And that was when Kelly said something unexpected. "Well, I have a surprise for you." The audience gasped. Keith looked confused. "A surprise?" Kelly smiled mysteriously. "Let's bring out someone who knows a little about backstage life." The curtains began to part. Keith's face froze. The storm was just beginning. From behind the curtain stepped a man in a gray suit, Keith's former tour manager. The audience didn't immediately recognize him, but Keith did. His expression hardened instantly. Kelly spoke carefully. "We thought it might be helpful to have both sides share their perspective." Keith's voice dropped. "You didn't tell me about this." Kelly looked slightly uncomfortable. "We wanted it to be authentic." The manager extended a polite hand. "Keith." Keith didn't shake it. "What is this?" Keith asked quietly, but his tone carried through the microphone. Kelly tried to maintain control. "There's been speculation about creative differences. Maybe this is a chance to clear the air." The manager began. "I've always respected Keith's talent, but there were disagreements about direction. Canceling shows hurt the crew." Murmurs filled the studio. Keith leaned forward. "You're implying I don't care about my crew?" "I'm saying decisions were made without communication." Keith's eyes flashed. "That's not true." Kelly interjected gently. "Let's keep this respectful." The manager continued. "There were rehearsals you walked out of." Keith shook his head. "Because you were pushing me to perform when I needed rest." "I told you that." The tension was thick enough to cut with a knife. Kelly looked between them. "So it was about health?" Keith hesitated. Silence. The audience held its breath. "It wasn't just health," Keith said slowly. "It was about trust." The manager frowned. "Trust goes both ways." Keith stood up abruptly. Gasps echoed through the room. "I didn't agree to this," Keith said firmly, removing his mic pack. "I came here to talk about music, not to be ambushed." Kelly rose as well. "Keith, please." But he stepped back, shaking his head. "This isn't fair." The manager attempted to speak again, but Keith cut him off. "You've said enough." The camera zoomed in as the crowd whispered anxiously. Kelly reached out. "We just wanted clarity." Keith looked at her, hurt more than angry. "There's a difference between clarity and confrontation." And then without another word, he walked off the stage. The audience erupted, not in applause but in stunned confusion. Kelly stood frozen. The band didn't know whether to play. The cameras kept rolling. And the internet? It was already exploding. Backstage, chaos unfolded. Producers scrambled. Publicists whispered urgently into phones. Social media lit up with clips of Keith's exit, trending within minutes. Kelly returned to her seat, visibly shaken. "Well," she said softly, trying to regain composure, "live television." The audience offered hesitant applause. "We never intend to make anyone uncomfortable," she continued. "Our goal is always honest conversation." Meanwhile, behind the scenes, Keith paced the hallway. A producer approached him. "We didn't mean for it to escalate." Keith sighed deeply. "You blindsided me." "It was meant to create resolution." "You don't create resolution by surprising someone on national TV." His voice wasn't shouting anymore, it was tired. Moments later, Kelly herself walked backstage. "Keith," she said gently. He turned, conflicted. "I'm sorry you felt ambushed," she said sincerely. "That wasn't my intention." Keith studied her expression. "You should have told me." "You're right," Kelly admitted. "We thought it would be powerful television." He let out a quiet laugh. "It was powerful, all right." Silence lingered between them. Then Keith spoke softly. "There are things I'm dealing with privately. Health pressure, expectations. I didn't want to discuss that in front of millions." Kelly nodded. "I understand that." He looked down. The cancellations weren't about ego. They were about burnout. Kelly's eyes widened slightly. "Why not just say that?" "Because sometimes admitting you're overwhelmed feels like weakness." The weight of his words hung heavy. Kelly placed a hand on his arm. "It doesn't." After a long pause, Keith took a breath. "I'll finish the show, but no more surprises." Kelly managed a small smile. "Deal." Minutes later, they returned to the stage together. The audience applauded loudly, relieved. Keith took the microphone. "I want to say something," he began. "Walking off wasn't about anger. It was about feeling unprepared. I care deeply about my team and my fans. Sometimes artists need space to breathe." The room grew quiet. "I'm human, and I'm learning to say that out loud." Applause erupted, this time genuine and supportive. Kelly nodded beside him. "And that's what this show is about, real moments." The tension dissolved into understanding. The segment ended not with scandal, but with vulnerability. But for viewers at home, one question lingered. Was it truly resolved? Or was that just another performance?